Good morning, good morning. Starting another segment. This is Thursday, January, February, March, April 4th. April 4th, 2019. And we're going to continue with the book, as everybody, I believe, knows what we're doing. Buscaglia, Born for Love. It's an interesting book because we do it in what I call short segments so that we can contemplate on what we're doing or contemplating on what we've read. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And the first one that we're going to start with is the way to understanding is to be understanding. I was intrigued to learn that the derivative of the verb to understand is literally to observe standing beneath. There's a great deal of wisdom in this. To understand something, you must truly know it fully, from the bottom up. We human beings love to rush to judgments. We have opinions about everything, even when we don't know anything about the subjects. We spend an inordinate amount of time predicting, estimating, speculating, deciding, and criticizing, usually with little or no foundation. Mostly this is true because we are confined in our understanding of things by what we know about ourselves, which can often be very meager indeed. It follows then that a better understanding of ourselves will bring us closer to an understanding of others. When we are able to accept the often unpredictable ways in which we behave and think, we can begin to see more clearly why others do what they do and think how they think. An old American Indian adage says that we can't understand anyone else until we have spent ample time in their moccasins. To this, I would like to add that we should consider being more comfortable in our own moccasins before we try to fit into someone else's. There's a quote by Jesse Jackson. The only justification we have to look down on someone is because we are able to pick him up. It does remind me of the one I'm sure a lot of you've heard. About the man who cried because he had no shoes until he saw the man that had no feet. It sometimes can be very difficult to be able to understand another person because, in fact, or in reality, we have not walked from their point of view. And we're all different, that's for sure. And we all have come up from different backgrounds. And without knowing those things, sometimes it's difficult to comprehend or understand the differences that other people have, because we try to base those differences on the knowledge that we have, which is not always most accurate, so to speak. Anyway, just a short moment to contemplate. All right, we'll move on to the next one. The next one is love is not love unless it is used. There is seemingly so little love shared in this world, it is not surprising that we ask, where have all the lovers gone? Since love is the most vital energy for good that is within our power of utility, it is puzzling why we so seldom do so. Love is just a useless, abstract idea until we put it into action. One misconception about love is that it is finite. Giving too much or too freely depletes our supply. People who believe this are very frugal with their love and spend lifetimes hoarding it for what I cannot imagine. What else do we have to give that costs us so little? What else is so inexhaustible in supply? What else confers such benefits to both the giver and the receiver? Unless we are always actively living in love, we are not utilizing the greatest gift we have been given and which we in turn have to offer. There's a quote by Emily Dixon. If I can stop one heart from beating, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching or cool one's pain or help one fainting robin into his nest again, I shall not live in vain. Again, yeah, I do believe that Jesus, or something we might quote from Jesus, was that he died because he loved us all. He loved the whole world. And it's pretty difficult to try to phantom that kind of love. And yet, I do believe that that kind of love is in every single one of us. We don't know it. We may not even believe it, but it is there. And it goes on for eternity. It is, in fact, eternal in that there's no expense. It goes on forever. You can't use it up, so to speak. Anyway, to contemplate. Many of these are the kind of things that one needs to give that deep thought to. Okay, we'll move on to the next one here. The next one is we all have the equal potential to love and be loved. We may not all have equal wealth, power, intelligence, or fame, but we all have the equal ability to grow in love. I hear people say that love is easier for the wealthy or powerful or fabulous because they have more time to devote to its well-being. The average person, on the other hand, is perceived to be more concerned with basic survival than with non-essential romantic concepts such as love. In reality, everyone knows at heart that money, power, fame, and intelligence have little or no relationship to success in love. Money can buy you sex, even fleeting moments of respect, but not love. Power can motivate, intimidate, coerce, but it cannot assure love. Famous people have their well-publicized problems with love, in spite of the fact that their fame can be a very attractive asset. And even those who are among us with the highest IQs are not always wise when it comes to love. Of all human behaviors, love is the most steadfastly democratic, and how successful we are is determined mostly by how much we are willing to dedicate ourselves to the process of learning to love, how resilient we are to our failures, how daring we are with our lives, how flexible we are with our own attitudes, and how amendable we are to change. There is a quote by William Arthur Ward: "Each of us will one day be judged by our standard of life, not by our standard of living, by our measure of giving, not by our measure of wealth, by our simple goodness, not by our seemingly greatness." I can say that some of these things that I'm reading, in some ways, are literally so profound that you're left with a loss of words. There's not much one can say but to contemplate that which has been read. I do hope everybody enjoys the fact that I am taking that short moment for all of those people out there to contemplate on what's been read. right, we'll go on to the next one. The next one is called Bitterness Only Ends Up Soaring. No one seeks out bitter fruit. The same is true with bitter people. Not long ago, I received a letter from a woman who was complaining about her loneliness. She complained that she had been abandoned by her husband. Her family, she wrote, visited her only on rare occasions and always reluctantly when they did. She continued with a catalog of complaints. She was bitter about her advancing age, her failing health, about the uncaring world, about unloving friends. She was angry even with those who seemed to want to help her. She saw her bitterness as justified in every case and was unaware of the role that her unceasingly negativity was playing in furthering her isolation. When I responded to her letter by hinting that her negative attitudes might be contributing to her problem, after all, who would want to be a part of such bitterness? She wrote back that I was even worse than the others, since I was purporting to be a lover and was, in reality, nothing but a hypocrite. Experience tells us that we get back from life pretty much what we give. If we turn a bitter face to the world, for whatever reason, we can expect little else in return. If, however, we face adversity with a sense of humor and hold to a base of gratitude for what we have, we're likely to find people responding to us in kind. Quote by Fred Allen, he always had a chip on his shoulder that he was ready to use to kindle an argument. Wow, ho, ho, ho. I'm sure all of us at one time in our life has seen or met or know this kind of individual. And all I can say in retrospect is that, God forbid, I hope it's not me. I try to stay on the positive side of the street, but then we're all human. Yeah. I'm just going to show you something. I even have a rock on that I here in my desk. And I think it's kind of cool. You know, I like to think that that's my attitude at least 80% of the time. Okay, now this time we are going into what I just call another segment. Because he has it, they're not chapters, but they're, I believe somebody is coming in here. Is that a Sandy trying to get in here? Good morning, Sandy. It looks like you're trying to get in here, Sandy. I hear a doorbell. I see a Sandy.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Little tired from yesterday because, you know, payday, go to Elko, run here, run there, do this, do that.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but it wears you out.
Yeah.
It makes everything hurt all over. I mean, not hurt real bad. I don't have the kind of pain, you know, I call it just soreness. Muscles get a little sore, but they're not in pain like a lot of people I know.
Yeah.
And of course, I've been pretty busy on the computer, just learning and learning and learning and learning. And
That's good. Yeah, I'm trying to do something with, setting up some kind of an advertising campaign. Got to get some business.
yeah, well, that's why, I took that one program that I was telling you about because
Yeah.
it's been very helpful. But it's pretty involved. I mean, it's like you're really going to want to take the time and do it because like when I was doing today, an hour and a half almost to do one thing, and then of course replaying it and replaying it and replaying it and replaying it to make sure that I'm doing it correctly.
Right.
So in some ways, at least if you're like me, old and stupid, it takes a while to get it down and learn it.
Yeah.
But oh well. I'm going to live to be 150, so I still got lots of time. Anyway, come in. We're just starting. It's not chapters. I ought to just show this just so people can see if I can get it up there.
Yeah.
See how that's, it's not a chapter. It's kind of like, I call it a segment. We're going into the next, whatever it is, because he doesn't call it chapters. Anyway, the next segment is love is not for the easily defeated or the quickly disillusioned. And I would have to agree with that without even going any further. Because in a sense, if you're not ready to get your teeth picked out, then you're not ready to venture down that path. Anyway, I'll go ahead and start. It starts out with an ounce of discretion is worth more than a pound of knowledge. And underneath he says that's an Italian proverb. Children require intimate resolution for their frustration. Okay, you need to be quiet, Loretta, because I'm reading. Children require immediate resolution for their frustration. If they don't receive it, they use a whole repertory of stomping, crying behavior to get their way. As we grow older, we hopefully, if painfully, learn the world was not created solely for us. Other people need and deserve our consideration. We learn about tact and discretion and to listen to that little voice inside that says, "Shut up." This is not the time, the place, or the reason to go with my impulses. We learn to wait for passions to subside and cooler heads to prevail. When we truly value another's feelings, we are willing to postpone our desires, repress our demands, at least temporarily, knowing that there is no winning if we've had our say and lost our love. I have a friend who feels compelled to sound off at the slightest provocation. In defense of this behavior, he cites current theories on the importance of the psychological ventilation, which say that if anger and frustration are not expressed immediately, irreparable physical and psychological damage will surely result. So you will find him engaged in tirades with family, friends, and anyone who may cross his path at the wrong time. He is convinced that this is conducive to his health. Never mind what this is doing to the health, particularly the mental health of those around him. Yet he can't understand why he feels so unwanted, lonely, or unloved. A little selective suppression, even when we're certain we're right, does more than win friends and influence people. It enhances feelings of respect and love, and is the stuff of which lasting relationships are made. There's a quote by a Persian proverb: "With a sweet tongue and kindness, you can drag an elephant by a hair." That one's kind of interesting. In terms of I'll learn to say it one of these days. Contemplating.
There you go.
When, it's like I said before, sometimes some of the stuff that I read in terms of contemplating about it, there's not a whole lot to contemplate other than just to sit there and think about what was said, because it is in itself is very, very profound.
Yeah, and it's, pretty direct.
Yeah. I was reading one just before you got on that said that a person was having a problem and they'd asked him for help, and so he told them. And then the reply he got back was that for him to be a so-called lover in respect, his statement was pretty rude and very straightforward, and he was a hypocrite. That was the end of that. So, who knows? What do we know? Do we know anything? Blah, blah, blah.
We're not as smart as we think we are.
Oh, heaven to Betsy, how truthful that is. But like I say, I hope that people who do listen to this appreciate the fact that there's a little bit of time to think about what's been read.
Mm.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, it's early where you are, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 25 after 9.
Mm. Wow. After 11 here.
Yeah, it's almost noon there. Lunchtime. Well, it depends on when you eat lunch, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people eat lunch at 12, and a lot of people eat lunch at 2. So
I'm just having my coffee.
yeah, I already had my drink there. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. Next one is using love for convenience. The so-called McDade of the 80s saw love approached more as a business transaction with people reduced to commodities. These individuals were more concerned with ego gratification than with mutual satisfaction. Of course, not everyone identified with this attitude, but most of us know of relationships based upon these me values, i.e., two people independently without regard to each other pursuing their own personal agendas. Several years back, I came to know a woman who seemed to have ordered her husband from a catalog. So perfect was he for her. He was handsome, intelligent, hardworking, dedicated, and loyal. All the better, at the time, to impress her friends and provide her ego gratification. After a few years, she told me that Mr. Perfect had lost his luster, much as a dazzling new outfit does when it is repeatedly displayed. She felt little computation about discarding him and going off in search of a new love. She saw this as a duty to herself. She was soon remarried. He, on the other hand, has yet to recover. When we use other people as a means to our own ends, we reduce them to the status of objects. It is no surprise when those so used remain damaged and broken for years, if not forever. Such behavior is a distortion of basic decency. It has nothing to do with love. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin quotes, "What generally saps us and poisons our happiness is that we feel that we shall soon exhaust and reach the end of whatever attracts us." Oh, wow.
Not good.
No, and sometimes as I read this, my first thought sometimes it comes to my mind, oh God, I hope that's not me. You know,
Yeah.
I've heard the expression that sometimes, and I really don't know how true it is, but sometimes that which you see in someone else that you hate is actually that which is in yourself.
Mm.
And you can't hate yourself, so you turn and hate the other person because that's more convenient, I guess. I don't know. Something to, as they say, think about, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which again will allow a couple of minutes, or not a couple of minutes, but a few moments.
When was the book written, Robert? Do you know?
I'm sorry, when?
When was the book written?
Let's see. I think it was written 1992, so it's well over 20 years old.
Yeah.
Like I say, one of the reasons I really enjoy and like the book is because I met the person. I got to meet him and talk to him briefly. He was, I had to catch a plane, so about the most I got out of him was 2 or 3 minutes, but still, that was 2 or 3 minutes. What the heck?
Yeah.
It's kind of like something that I'm promoting about writing a book. And of course, it starts out with the ideology that there's a book in all of us.
Mm.
But the problem is most of us don't know how to write it or get it published or any of that,
Mm-hmm.
So I have a thing out there that you can learn how to do that if you really think there's a book in you.
Huh.
But I cannot beat around no bush. It's not cheap.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Oh yeah, if you want to take the course, you really have to be willing to be gone for about a week. You're going to be in a hotel for 3 or 4 days. You're going to be in training on what you need to do for 3 or 4 days, all day, every day.
Yeah.
And it costs somewhere, I think it's around $5,000.
Ouch.
There's probably somebody out there that's got that kind of money that would really like to write a book and wouldn't mind spending that kind of money. I'd love to write a book, but I ain't got that kind of money.
Oh, grief. That's a little absurd.
Well, I guess it all depends on how you look at it, because I know for a fact it's not cheap to write a book, and if you try to do it on your own, you might spend 15 or 20,000, not 5. And who knows? You take the 5 to learn how to do it, and you still might spend the 15 or 20,000 to get the book, published and on the market and the whole bit, and whatever. But anyway, that's a whole different subject. Sinus is driving me nuts.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get up and get a tissue.
Yeah, and I'm running out of Kleenexes. No, I'm not running out of Kleenexes. I'm out of Kleenexes. Have to go the other direction. When out of Kleenexes, the next hombre is toilet paper. Anyway, the next one. Moving on. Yeah. It's a pain, ain't it?
Oh, it is.
It don't hurt. It just drives you crazy.
Constantly.
Yeah. Surviving the wounds of love. If we are going to be lovers, we must be as open to the wretchedness as we are to the bliss it can bring. For both are a part of the reality of loving. Since earthly love is imperfect, we will never be able to avoid pain. But the lover finds ways of surviving the wounds. I've often noted that there is no lover worth the name who is not covered with minor scars. Most individuals outlive their injuries, but there are some who continue to flaunt them like proud battle wounds as they continue their way on love. They keep a scarred list of wrongs that burn in memory as a warning to never let it happen again. Love may bring disappointments and devastation, but it is the wise among us who learn from them. Having done so makes love triumphs even sweeter. Our emotional strength and growth toward wisdom developed over a long time and quite often arise out of the adversity. This is a small price to pay for such powerful knowledge. A quote by Soren Kierkegaard. Adversity not only draws people together, but brings forth that beautiful inward friendship, just as the cold winter forms ice, figures on window panes, which the warmth of the sun effaces. Not sure what that means.
Me either.
Interesting, but well, looks like we might have time for maybe just a couple more, and then we'll have to get out of here.
Correct.
Yeah. As the old saying goes, time must march on. Okay, let's just go ahead and start the next one here. Next one is called Publicizing Love. So much of our lives are overrun by hate, greed, violence, and selfishness, that we are tempted to overlook the fact that there is at least an equal amount of goodness in the world. The problem is that those who promote their negativity and hate seem to be far more vocal than the lovers and are certainly given more media time. For years, I have been promoting a television series celebrating good people doing good things. I have been told by the experts to forget it, that goodness doesn't sell. Positive stories like good people, it would seem, lack appeal. As a result, we are developing a whole generation which devalues loving one another and is drawn more to a negative view of life, to which it refers as the real world. It's not surprising that so many people are enticed by hate and violence and selfishness the way our society glorifies it. It seems to me that there has never been a more important time for us to fearlessly publicize goodness and display love at any cost. Quote by someone who's anonymous. Have you ever met him?
No.
We suffer from seeing too much death and not enough life, too much sorrow and not enough joy, too much greed and not enough giving, too much loneliness and not enough love. I would agree with the quote.
Yeah, I do.
Well, I agree with the whole thing that he's talking about publicizing. Even in a newspaper, if you read a newspaper, 90% of it is all
Bad
gory,
stuff.
terrible stuff. Maybe, if you're lucky, clear in the back of the paper, in the back page, clearing down in the bottom, it might say something like, "Oh, somebody was so sweet today, we couldn't believe it."
Yeah, thank God that you see that on Facebook. People share that kind of stuff, and that's great.
Yes.
There's just not enough of it.
Yeah, and one thing that I like to do is when I see something that I think is, positive and cool, I like to just click that share.
Yeah.
And share and pass it on. Share and pass it on. That's definitely, a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And we need it.
Mm-hmm. We do.
But then I would have to say, clear back to the time of Christ. The same game has been going on for over 2,000 or 3,000 years. And apparently we still haven't got it yet. Oh, wow. All right. Well, go ahead. Got time for one more here. The next one's called Dying Comes Naturally to All of Us. Having the courage to live does not. Life is ours to do with as we will. We can accept what comes with a sad sort of resignation, or we can rage against it with human passion. We can find life as exaltation or subjection or subjugation, subjuga, subjugation, as cause for bliss or despondency, ecstasy or emptiness. The point is that the choice is ours. My mother had the most positive view of life I have ever known. When things went badly, she immediately set out to put it into perspective. Instead of brooding or cursing her fate, she would invite friends over for a good pasta. Pasta cured every ill. At other times, she would plan an outing, usually to the sea, which she saw as very healing. In this way, she reminded herself and us of the pleasures that life could bring instead of concentrating on its grim offerings. She lived to be 82 years old and never lost this quality. She convinced us all that it was always better to choose life, especially, as Woody Allen says, when you consider the alternative. Quote below, Henry Van Dyke. Be glad of life because it gives you the chance to love and to work and to play and to look up at the stars. Very, very good.
Mhm.
I like it, I like it, I like it. Anyway, no news on the front page that I am aware of that we could hash out.
How long does it usually take you to get your Vango? I'm still waiting on mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I ordered it like the 25th or 6th. I don't remember.
I'd say somewhere between 5 to 7 days on the average.
I'll have to check the order. I haven't even gotten the shipment notice, you know, how you usually get one.
Yeah. But it has varied. There was one time it took, I think, almost 2 weeks for some reason. But
Oh, my. Okay.
it could be that, I think it depends on where you order. If you're ordering directly from the warehouse, you know, United Warehouse, it might come pretty fast. Or if you're ordering from Amazon.com, it definitely will come pretty fast. But if you're ordering something from one of the brand things, you know, like the vitamins or something like that, then it may take several days longer.
Well,
So,
I'll have to keep an eye up. I don't know. I thought it was kind of long. I'll check when I ordered it.
yeah.
I have to get in touch with them.
Yeah, I do the same thing, and, you know.
Well, I'm having it shipped to Texas, and last time they screwed it up, so I kept my order showing it was supposed to come to Texas. So
Oh, yeah. It's the human factor. It's like,
yeah.
it's just like this morning. I was getting frustrated because I couldn't get something to work, so I decided to call them. And it's Murphy, right? The minute I called them and explained my problem, we went in, and bingo, I went right on, no
There it
problem.
was.
See, I feel ridiculous because I've been trying for an hour to get this to work, and then all of a sudden I call you, and now it's working. I don't know.
Oh, gosh. Hi, Hannah.
Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and jump out of here.
Okay, Robert, you get some rest.
And
Sounds like you need some time out.
oh, yeah, anytime I go to Elko, it's a hard day. Wears me out.
Yeah. Sounds like a good time to hang up. The dogs are going crazy.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll see you on Saturday then, maybe.
Okay, Robert. God bless. Talk to you soon.
All right, God bless. You have a great day.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.